Welcome back to English 314. Let's get started. We're talking in this short presentation about adverbs, more on adverbs. So you know that an adverb is a part of speech that describes a verb or a word that describes a verb, adverb, adjective, or a sentence, that is to say, or an independent clause. Adverbs also, of course, can describe dependent clauses. So if you take a look at the new material that I sent that adds to what you already have in your grammar book, just a few additional comments under point number 3 at the bottom of the page. So if you look along with that, I'll review briefly what's on this page and then we'll end up at point number 3. So there are many, many adverbs, as the page says. They don't have special names, but they all generally tell us something about the how, why, where, when, degree to which, and so on, of a verb, adverb, adjective, or entire sentence, or dependent clause, independent clause, or dependent clause. So we're talking in this video, we're just beginning to talk about the ways that adverbs can describe full sentences. And we've seen some of these in Ed Grant's Grammar Part 1. We're going to review a bit here. You're going to do some exercises or an exercise on adverbs of various kinds, many of them introducing sentences. And these are interspersed with adverbs that simply describe other words. So it's a good review. You do the parts of speech and diagram the sentences. I've thrown in a lot of what you already know, pedestals and things like that. And we're moving on then after this short review to using adverbs that actually connect clauses, that connect crucifixes. So that's the first step toward the multi-clausal sentence, putting together a multi-clausal sentence. So here's where I get finally to explain to you my pet peeve with the terms conjunctive adverb and adverbial conjunction. These are commonly used terms. I don't like them. I don't think, as you know, that they work very well. I think they confuse the terms, suggesting that an adverb is kind of like a conjunction and a conjunction is kind of like an adverb. Well, these two parts of speech, as you know, do different kinds of work, and we're going to begin to see how exactly they do different work. So conjunctions generally don't do the work that an adverb does. There can be some overlap and some sort of slippage, and we'll see what that means, but this is where the subtle differences really matter for how you put together an utterance. So remember, an adverb tells you how, why, where, when, degree to which, and so on. In this case, as we'll be discussing, of an entire clause, so how to understand an entire clause. So we can say, however, X, however, clause. The however can tell you how the clause that will follow in some way completely opposes the previous clause. So there's a way to understand the whole clause. How are we to understand it? What does it do? These have the job also, these words, these adverbs used in this way, do in some way have the job of also connecting these clauses. But to say that they're conjunctions is not correct. So they give us a way of understanding, excuse me, how we understand the clauses that will follow, or the clauses that they follow. These adverbs that connect clauses can appear at the beginning of the clause or at the end, and we'll be discussing that. So when in doubt, rely on your dictionary. I do think Webster's Online is the best current dictionary. We don't really have a need for the Oxford English Dictionary in this class, although it is really interesting, and I might be referring to it at moments to describe the etymologies of certain terms that have affected how we structure the grammar so as to use those terms. But anyway, the OED is fascinating, but I want you to use and really consistently use, as you've done before, the Webster's Online Dictionary. I think it's very good, provides lots of great examples, and is very precise with the parts of speech. So here we have, if you look up these words, you will see that they are adverbs and not conjunctions, and not adverbial conjunctions or conjunctive adverbs. So when in doubt, check the dictionary, and remember, of course, that the dictionary will provide you a number of options often for how to understand how a word can possibly behave, how it can behave, how it is a part of speech or serves as a part of speech. Remember that most words can behave as more than one part of speech depending on how they're used. Most of them can, so that should not be unusual. So if you look up a word and you see adverb and also preposition, the word can function in those two ways depending on how it's used, and you know this. But what's interesting is that you will almost never see, and there are some exceptions, some really interesting exceptions, but you will almost never see adverbs that are also conjunctions. They're different, that's why. Now, sometimes the same word can function as an adverb or as a conjunction. Those are two different functions, and those are interesting, but they're not the same thing. So we'll see examples of that. So if you look to the third point in this slightly new material on adverbs, so adverbs can describe entire sentences or clauses, as I've just explained, and as you know. The examples in the book, therefore, comma. So what follows is a result of what I've just said. So I understand what I'm about to say, or you are to understand what I'm about to say as the result of something I've just said previously, right? So that's how you understand what follows. Lately I've not been feeling good. So lately, the whole expression to follow has occurred. So I haven't been feeling good in general lately. So in other words, not earlier I had not been feeling good, but lately I have not been feeling good. So somehow I managed to finish things on time. Somehow describes the entire act to follow. To what degree? Somehow. It's not an always. To what degree always? It's not to what degree never. It's a to what degree somehow. So that's the way that the word has an adverbial function in that sentence. Now, I've given you a list of adverbs, and reading from what I've just sent you, here are some adverbs. There really are many more that are commonly used to describe sentences and clauses. They're also used to describe individual words, so don't forget that. But note that there are some 2, 3, and even 4-word clusters can act as single adverbs, just as 2, 3, and sometimes 4-word clusters can act as prepositions. I can't think of a 4-word preposition offhand, but I'm sure there must be some. I've not put any in the book, but there are some 4-word adverbs. And how do we know? We look in the dictionary. And does the dictionary tell us the absolute truth for all time? No, but it tells us what grammarians have identified as the most common usage or commonly accepted usage of various words at a current time in the history of the usage of the language. So we're using the contemporary dictionary, the dictionary that describes generally what's happening now. So if you look at these words, this list of words, additionally, although, at last, there is a 4-word adverb, on the other hand, and so on, you can look these up and you will see adverb as an option in the dictionary. Dictionary is your friend, you remember that. So look them up. And in this first set of exercises, I've used lots of different kinds of adverbs. And I just want you to review and diagram, do all the parts of speech, identify all the parts of speech, and diagram the sentences and identify the sentence parts. We will then move on to see these adverbs working to connect multi-clausal sentences, okay? So that's where we're headed. So do that exercise first, and the next short discussion or lecture is on conjunctions and how they connect clauses and sometimes phrases as well, and also, of course, words, but we know about that usage already. Okay, so go on to the first exercise.